know why we call it Spirit Island in particular. We don't know where that comes from, who coined it, when it popped up. What we do know about this island now is that, of course, it is a sacred place to the indigenous people. They call it Sanamakoche, which translates to sacred place or sacred land. And they believe that this little piece of land is sacred because of a couple of reasons. One being, if you take a look out into the Hall of the Gods, see a giant mountain that kind of looks like a thumbs up. Just behind it, there's another mountain called Mount Monkhead. It kind of looks like a person, a man laying like this there. If you can see it, awesome. But if not, I can always show it to you through photos. Or if you go home when you have Wi-Fi, if you look up Mount Monkhead, you'll be able to see it there. But the indigenous people here believe that if there are facial features, human facial features in the mountain, it means that their ancestors are within that mountain, their ancestors' spirits. And so Spirit Island pretty much points directly at Mount Monkhead, and because of that, they believe when they come out here to perform their ceremonies, their ancestors watching over them are involved in the ceremonies, keeping an eye on them. Another reason that they believe that one area is sacred is because of the Queen Elizabeth mountain range. As I mentioned earlier, it is a very unique mountain range, and they believe that because Spirit Island kind of sits in the middle of this unique mountain range, that it is in itself sacred as well. Now, we know that for why Spirit Island, we did try to figure it out. We had a couple of University of Alberta students search through the archives, try to figure out where the name came from. Unfortunately, they couldn't. We do, however, have a couple of theories as to how we got the name for the island. One being, it was just simply a mistranslation of the indigenous word for it over time. So Sanamakoche got translated to sacred place or sacred land, and over time that somehow got translated to Spirit Island. Now another theory that we have, a bit longer than the first one, is that during the 1950s there was the Kodak Colorama campaign. And this was a photography campaign put on by Kodak to advertise their new colored film. And the photograph that won this competition was actually a photograph of Spirit Island and the Hall of the Gods behind it. And so this photograph, being the winner, it was blown up to a huge size, put up in Grand Central Station in New York City. It was only supposed to stay up there for a couple of weeks. Ended up actually staying there for a couple of months because people were really seeing it as they were coming and going from work each day. And the man who took the photo, a man named Peter Gales, he called it Island at Maligne Lake. And in an interview, he said it kind of captured the spirit of the Canadian Rockies. So we get Island at Maligne Lake, captures the spirit of the Canadian Rockies. A lot of people saw this picture, and so somehow we get maybe Spirit Island. Now, although this area, of course, is culturally significant, very important to the indigenous people, they actually did not come up to the lake for almost a century. And this is because when this area was made into a forest park reserve in 1907, and then a bit after incorporated into the national park, the indigenous people who had called this place their home for many thousands of years were actually forcibly removed. So the Canadian government removed them from the area, put them onto reserves, children into residential schools. By law, they were not allowed to leave these areas, and so they did not come up here to hunt, gather, or perform their ceremonies for almost 100 years. It wasn't until the 2015 Medicine Lake fire that they kind of ended up deciding to return here finally. So this fire, it started naturally and it ended naturally. It started with a lightning strike, and it ended because the wind turned on itself after all the fuel was burnt. It could no longer burn. So because it started naturally and ended naturally, indigenous people saw this as a sign from their Thunderbird god that it was time to return to the land and heal it. So in 2016, they returned here, came on one of these boats, went out to the island, and they performed a healing ceremony for the first time in almost a century. I know every year they return here and they perform a ceremony either in the spring or the summer. We had one about a month ago here. They come on one of our boats with our crew and go out and do that each year. And not only, of course, do they come out to do their ceremonies, like I said, we learn a lot from our friends, the Stoney people. They also come and teach us their history, their culture, and their language as well. And so when they were removed from the area, they almost lost this language. Even today, very few people speak it fluently. So I'd like to share some of the words that we've learned. They appreciate us sharing some of the words that they've taught us. One word that I like to share in particular is their word for thank you. I think it's a to know when you're learning a language. One of the first things that we learn usually. But their word for thank you is ish, me, ish. If you'd like to repeat it, that's amazing. I appreciate it. They appreciate it. But if not, no worries at all. Saying thank you in your own language, of course, is just as good. It's simply the intention behind it, the respect behind it. But the Stony word for thank you is ish, me, ish. Beautiful. Well, thank you guys so much. I did promise you I'd put the mic down for most of the way home. I do like to try and keep my promises, so I will leave you to it. But of course, I'll still be on the boat. I'm not jumping ship and swimming back to home base, so I will be around. If you have any questions, want any recommendations for what to do after, whether around the lake or in Jasper, anything, I'm happy to chat. I will walk down the aisle. But otherwise, big ish to you all for listening to the tour so far.